The space race between the USSR and the US began in 1957 when Russia launched Sputnik, its first space probe, into space on October 4th. The reason the space race began was that the USSR and the US were competing against each other to impress the world with the amount of advanced technology they each had. The space race had caused a lot of pressure on both the USSR scientists and the US scientists to speed up the process of creating rockets, this causing the scientists to have to skip certain safety procedures. Only 1 month after, on November 3rd, the Soviet Union launched. Only 1 month after the Soviet Union launched Sputnik into space, on November 3rd, they sent a dog up named Luka, nicknamed Mutnik, up into space in the space shuttle Sputnik 2. She was the first ever living creature sent into space. Luka lived in space for 4 days before dying from heat, stress, and lack of oxygen. Next was the US's turn. They sent up a spacecraft called the Pioneer 3, but it failed to reach the moon. The US hoped that the Pioneer 3 would be able to make it successfully to the moon and measure the radiation. The Soviets' Luna 2 crash-landed on the moon on September 13th, 1959. The Soviets' Luna 3 was sent up to the moon to take pictures of it. The space probe returned with 29 pictures of 70% of the moon. On January 31st, 1961, a chimp named Ham was launched into space by the Americans. His trip lasted 16 minutes and 39 seconds. The Soviet Union shocked the world by sending the first man, Yuri Gagarin, into space for 2 hours on April 12, 1961. On May 5, 1961, Alan Shepard became the second man in space, but the first American. President Kennedy had made a famous speech in 1961 and made a statement to have man on the moon by 1970. During the same year, John Glenn became the first man to orbit the Earth on January 21st. But in 1963, Russia sent the first woman into space, and she made 48 successful trips around the Earth. Then, in 1965, on June 16th, the USSR had the first man walk in space. The US was quick to follow when Edward H. White walked in space only 3 months after the Soviets. He had become the first American to walk in space. Also, the US sent a space probe to the moon called the Lunar Orbiter. It entered the moon's orbit and took the first ever pictures of Earth. After 2 successes, the US lost 3 Americans in a fire just after Apollo 1 launched on January 27, 1967, caused by malfunctions. This disaster caused a 19-month delay for the US. Only 3 months after the Apollo disaster, the USSR lost an astronaut from a crash landing of their Soyuz space rocket. Finally, on July 21st, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin became the first men to walk on the moon. After 12 years of a rat race to the moon between the USSR and the US, there was victory on the US side. Throughout the 12 years, the US spent $24 billion on the space race, and the USSR spent from $4.8 billion to $10.1. Many compromises were made during the space race, including the loss of brave men, but the end result was great for mankind.